One of the best uses that I found for graphics cards has been the ability to create graphics like these ones using Stable Diffusion. If you want to learn how to do this, follow the link in the description, join the course, and you may find a discount code there for your use. Now in this video, we're going to be covering details of newly released Nvidia graphics cards and also some news about important developments in the field of power supplies for the computers that are running these cards. So let's get started first of all on the new graphics cards. Nvidia is launching 3 new graphics cards. These are the RTX 4080 Super, the RTX 4070 Ti Super, and the RTX 4070 Super. The Super models will offer higher memory configurations compared to their non-Super counterparts, including the 4080, the RTX 4080 Super with 18GB GDDR6X memory, and the RTX 40 Super and Ti Super with 16GB each. Now this new lineup is expected to be more expensive than the original RTX 4000 lineup. Nvidia is also launching a new RTX 3050 card. The new card comes with 6GB of GDDR6 memory, featuring 2560 CUDA cores. It's aimed at budget gamers and is priced at $179. This offers a performance comparable to the GTX 1660 Super and may well be replacing this older GTX card. The new card is designed to deliver smooth gaming experiences at 1080p resolution. And Nvidia is launching a new variant of its RTX 4090 graphics card called the RTX 4090D. The new card is aimed at data center and cloud gaming platforms and comes with 14,592 CUDA cores, 24GB of GDDR6X memory, and a TDP of 425 watts. The RTX 4090D is expected to deliver improved performance for data center workloads and offer better gaming experiences in cloud-based environments. So those are the reports, but is any of that actually true? Now, if you've been following media reports, there have been reports of many new graphics cards coming from Nvidia over the last few weeks. However, when we go to the Nvidia card and look for new cards, we find that there are none there. All we see is the usual marketing for the existing cards and none for these supposed new cards. So what's actually happening? Well, starting off with the reports of the new RTX 4090, that is actually true. The RTX 4090D is actually listed on the Nvidia website for their China market at 12,999 yuan. And apparently that was the same price that the 4090 launched at. It has got 24GB of VRAM, and that is GDDR6X. And we also have confirmation coming from other websites as to the other specs. Now, an automatically translated version of the Nvidia Chinese website shows and confirms 14,592 CUDA cores. The frequency seems to have remained the same, as well as the memory capacity. We are using GDDR6X. So you can see here from the horse's mouth the details. When we turn to another website for more information, the South China Morning Post, which is a fairly reliable newspaper in Hong Kong, I think here quoting Bloomberg, says the 4090D chip listed for sale on Nvidia China's website has about 10% fewer processing cores than the version sold in other countries. I've not been able to get confirmation of the other information, but they do say here that the company said it extensively engaged with the US government whilst developing the graphics product, which will be available in January. Now, there's usually a bit of a delay between the announcement of a product and its availability in the shops, but because we're dealing with one single large market, which is China, it does seem that they could probably start having these available, say on Amazon, within just a few weeks but normally it does take quite a long time before products that are announced actually become available for consumers. Now, as for some of the other claims about this product being targeted for data centers and for cloud computing, that seems to be some hallucination that some AI had along the way. I can't find any confirmation of that at all. Now, as for reports that there are going to be 3 new super cards coming from Nvidia, things are a little bit more complicated there. A couple of months ago in the video RTX 4090 running out of stock ? I did raise the question as to whether Nvidia may be planning a release of new cards. And that was based on analysis of the promotional activities, the relative competitive situation between Nvidia and AMD, and also on the analysis of price movements that have been occurring for several months. And that particular video came out just before a dramatic change in the RTX 4090, which occurred because of a factor that I hadn't taken into account, which was what was happening in China with the Chinese bans. And if you want to know what's happening in China with the US government and the Chinese government over the computing technology relating to AI, let me know in the comments and maybe I might do some research into that and do a video on that. Since then, there've been a whole bunch of leaked information coming in about the RTX 40 Super series, and this concerns largely 3 possible cards with all sorts of different information. Now, overall, we don't know exactly what's going to be the situation in terms of the specs, but we have seen some information suggesting that January is going to be the launch date, and that the 4080, 4070 Ti Super and the 4070 Super will be coming out according to what we can actually see is a leaked embargo schedule. Now, this is something which indicates probably that these new cards are on the way, and we can also take a look at the Nvidia website and we can see that they have got a special address at CES 2024. That's not particularly special in its own situation, but it does help to build a picture of a possible launch about to occur of a bunch of new cards. What we don't know as yet are the exact details of those new cards, but I would say at this stage, it's more than likely, very much more than likely, that we're going to see new cards announced at CES 2024. But remember, there will always be a lag between the announcement of the cards, the reviews and the availability, and then the general situation where the supply happens to meet the demand. It could take several weeks before you can actually get your hands on any new cards that are announced. But if they do announce anything at CES, I will let you know as the news comes in. What makes me a little bit doubtful about whether this is gonna happen is the situation with the marketing, the promotions. Prior to the release of the Super Series, the first Super Series in 2019, Nvidia actually gave us a number of teasers that were aimed at building up an expectation for the arrival of a new product. Those were very effective in building up some anticipation and excitement about the new product. We haven't seen any such thing appearing on the YouTube channels for Nvidia, and that's something which maybe makes me a little bit more doubtful as to whether we will actually see these new cards coming soon. As for news of the new RTX 3050 6GB version, well, I think Nvidia definitely do need something at around the $170–$180 price range to compete with the Intel Arc A580, which performs about as well as the GTX 1660, which is a similar price. So they do need something which will actually compete not just on the basis that it is of the same performance, but it can maintain that performance advantage when you're using XeSS. XeSS is the equivalent of RTX. It provides DLSS kind of support inside of the Intel framework. So they need something that provides that, and they will need to have an RTX card at about this price point to compete with Intel. So it wouldn't surprise me if an RTX 3050 were to come out fairly soon. However, that would probably mean the end of the GTX 1660, and we have seen some previous rumors. An Nvidia RTX 4050 was rumored to be about to launch back in 2023 March, and we saw absolutely nothing. We did see two other cards, the 4060 Ti and the 4060 come through. Those were part of the rumor as well, but we didn't see the 4050. So it's possible that Nvidia might not launch the 3050, but if they do, the rumors are it'll probably be in February now. I wouldn't place a very high level of reliability on this particular rumor. Now, as for the RTX 4090, there's no indication at the moment that there's a new one coming through. We are paying significantly higher prices, and if it is true that the Chinese are also paying slightly, well, actually the same price for an inferior product with the 4090D, I would say there's probably a lot of demand, and we're probably going to see high prices for the 4090 for the foreseeable future. Now, for those of you who are into artificial intelligence and like to use these high-end GPUs for Stable Diffusion, I did do a video high-end GPUs for Stable Diffusion, Nvidia RTX and Apple M3, and that gives us possible alternatives for the RTX 4090 and allows us to compare what's available on the market and what's probably going to be the best one for inference, for training. So you may want to check that video out if you want to see what's available on the market right now, particularly given the high prices of the 4090. Now, if you are interested in Stable Diffusion, reminded that I have got a number of courses for Stable Diffusion. These are taking you from a beginner's level to a more advanced level to a mastery level, and this covers both Stable Diffusion using Comfy UI and also Automatic 1111. I'll have links to these in the description. You'll find some discounts there which might be very handy. Now, next I want to talk about power supplies that you might want to use with your computer if you are using a high-end graphics card, and some important information, especially if you use Cablemod adapters. Now, a comment left by one of my viewers on a previous video complained that her Corsair power supply didn't provide enough juice to allow her to overclock on the RTX 4080. So let's talk about some power recommendations, power supply recommendations for the high-end graphics cards. Now, first of all, we'll talk about the recommendations given by Corsair. For the RTX 4080, they have power requirements which state that the minimum should be a 750 watt. But when you're looking at these sorts of recommendations, you should really bear in mind that they're giving general marketing advice, and for overclocking you should do a little bit of extra research to decide what kind of power supply you're gonna need for your particular setup. This is more clear on the recommendations page for the RTX 4090, where you can see some of the graphics cards have a minimum recommended PSU of 850 and others have a 1000 watt minimum recommendation. So this extra research will give you that sort of confidence that you've got the right power supply for what you're trying to do. But for the 4090, for instance, I would recommend getting 1200. That will allow you a little bit of overclocking headroom, maybe even more than that. And also bear in mind, we have to be upgrading to the 5090 maybe next year, and who knows what kind of power requirements that's going to have. Now, if you're the kind of person when asked how much power your graphics card needs, your answer is yes, then this power supply is probably the one for you. This is the Seasonic Prime TX 1600. This is a 1600 watt power supply, 80 plus titanium, so very, very energy efficient, and that's great for energy efficiency. And it's also great for the sort of quiet cooling operation that you need. It comes with a 12-year warranty. Now, this power supply is one that has got two 12-volt high power connectors, and we actually have started to see some graphics cards, very high-end graphics cards, that do need two of these connectors. These are the 600 watt 12-volt high power connectors. This one here will give you up to two connectors. You can run the most powerful overclocked RTX 4090s. You could run a couple of RTX 4080s using this one. So it is very high end, but having very high titanium standard energy efficiency means you're getting tremendous energy efficiency. This thing might generate less than 40 watts of heat at 800 watts draw. It's an extremely energy efficient system that gives you a quiet operation, and if you're using some of these really powerful gaming cards, having energy efficiency in your power supply is a huge bonus. Nearly as powerful in terms of the wattage is the HX1500i from Corsair. This guy here is ATX 3.0 and PCIe 5 compliant, and it comes actually with the cable for the 12-volt high power connector in the box. So that's the adapter that Corsair uses for connecting to the RTX 40 series cards. And they've started using the cybernetics system as well. So this is A- for noise and platinum for energy efficiency. It has most of the benefits that you have with the previous one. However, the cost currently, with a significant discount, 25%, is actually a lot lower. It doesn't have the 12-volt high power connectors at the PSU itself, but with the connector cable, you can get that 600 watts that you need for your RTX 4090s. And there's enough headroom again to do a lot of overclocking on your Intel or AMD CPU. One of my new favorites is the Corsair Shift series. The RM1200 Shift gives you enough energy for the RTX 4090 at $210. It's a little bit more than some of the other Corsair units for that sort of power range. However, it is very, very interesting in its design. It's designed the way these things should be designed, with the connectors on the side rather than at the front. So I prefer this one for ergonomics when you're doing your PC build. A little bit more expensive, but all of these are discounted at the moment on the Amazon site. And I'll have links to all of these products in the description and also in the comments. Another recommendation from last year is the Seasonic Vertex. This came out about a year ago, and it's designed for the ATX 3.0 PCIe 5 generation. This guy comes with his own 12-volt high power connector. So I think it was one of the first ones from Seasonic to actually have that 12-volt high power connector. They're now saying, look, we're going to give you 12 years for the warranty. So even if you've purchased it in the past, you're now having a 12-year warranty instead of a 10-year warranty. This is one of the best that you can get. At 1200 watts gold efficiency, $260, you're getting high quality at a reasonable price. Another recommendation from last year is the Meg AI 1300p. This is one of the first ones that was certified for ATX 3.0 PCIe 5. It's got the 12-volt high power connector. It's got a lot of really nice stuff. And I recommended this last year. I think it was one of the first recommendations I made for this new generation. Unfortunately, it's had a few negative reviews, and some of those are pretty worrying. We're actually seeing some concerns about shorting outside of the case, outside of the power case. And I know it's on the graphics, you've got the electricity outside of the case, but we weren't expecting to see reviews saying, hey, this thing shorted, or this thing melted, this thing actually destroyed my PC. We're seeing some of those reviews, and for a high-end platinum plus fairly expensive power supply, that is really worrying. And for the time being, I'm a little bit concerned about recommending this. We need to see evidence of better quality control before I can go back to saying this is one of the ones you should buy. Cablemod have brought out a voluntary safety recall. They're saying if you're using one of the angled adapters, these came out last year during the height of the problems with the melting connectors, the melting adapters for the RTX 4090, and they came out, they spent a bit of time developing these adapters. They wanted these to be safer. They're now saying, hey, there's a problem with these ones. Stop using them immediately, and you may need to contact them, especially if you have had problems with a GPU being affected by the failure of these things. So I'll link to this page for your information. Now, some really positive news. Seasonic are trialing a new cable. It is a 90-degree cable, and it is of the variety of the 12-volt 2x6 type. This one is the new type of connector, which is intended to supersede the 12-volt high power connector. It should be backwards compatible, so that's not a problem. What they're saying with this new connector is that the data cable, the data sensors, should connect to the GPU before the power connectors do. That way, if it's not properly seated, you're not gonna get that sort of defective power delivery. it's just not going to work. So it will wait until it's properly seated inside the connector, using the data sensors to detect whether it is properly connected. Then the power is going to be delivered. That is going to reduce the number of problems we've seen with melting, you know, that sort of toasty melting problem that we saw a lot of last year. That's something which, you know, you can engineer your way out of that by reducing the possibility of user error. They're trying to do that, and so far the reviews are good. What we have here is a report, is in a different language, but they're saying that Seasonic is actually trialing this 90-degree angle connector. This is the actual cable connector, and hopefully we will have this newer, more secure, safer connector, which we can use with the high-end GPUs. That's what we deserve, really, isn't it? Like a good connector for a good GPU. As before, when they came out with the 12-volt high-power cable, they may be sending some of these out to people who apply for them free of charge. So you maybe want to get on board with the new connectors as soon as they come out, because you'll probably get it free for a period of time. In fact, in some of their marketing, Seasonic are really emphasizing the need to try to make sure that the cables attach in a way where you've got some kind of bend in the cable, so that it doesn't go in at an angle where it's likely to sort of work its way out. So that's something which is new. These guys are taking this seriously. Let's hope that the new inventions, the new innovations will actually cause fewer problems than the ones we saw in the past. I suspect that we're on the right direction with this. And finally, sticking with Seasonic, there is a new power delivery system for the fans. So they've got something that they call the MagFlow system, whereby they use these magnetic connectors to deliver power to the 1200 fans. And with this one, it makes it easier to do cable management. These are very high-end fans, and obviously Seasonic, they have a reputation for building very high quality fans in some of their power supplies. So this is a review for a new version, which is RGB, and the review gives it very, very high marks. It's not out yet, but if you want to get the non-RGB ones, these are already available. I know some of you guys do like the high-end fans, so I'll have a link to that and all the other products in the description. Last year, Stable Diffusion took the world by storm, and this year, Comfy UI provides a powerful way of controlling Stable Diffusion. If you've come to wonder how machine learning works, how it's possible to create an image from just words, if you would like to unlock the power of Stable Diffusion with this comprehensive course, if you want to learn the techniques and strategies used by top professionals to master this powerful tool, with my expert guidance, you'll gain the knowledge and the confidence to take your skills to the next level. And I think we're going to have a little bit of fun and entertainment along the way. So yeah, don't miss this opportunity to transform your career and achieve your goals, or just to satisfy that curiosity about what this machine learning and AI is all about. Enroll now and start your journey to success. See you soon.